In this video, we'll explore not just the movie, but the real story behind the sinking of the RMS Titanic, one of the largest and most luxurious ships ever built. What happened that fateful night in April 1912? Who were the real people behind the characters we see on screen? And what hidden details in the film were inspired by actual events? Of course, at the heart of the movie is the fictional love story between Jack and Rose, two characters from vastly different worlds. But while their romance might be made up, the sinking of the Titanic was all too real. Over 1,500 lives were lost when the unsinkable ship struck an iceberg and plunged into the freezing Atlantic waters. Let's dive into the story of Titanic, the film that made us all laugh, cry, and hold our breath. Are you ready? Let's set sail. The wreck of the Titanic, present day. The movie opens in the present day, where a deep-sea expedition is led by treasure hunter Brock Lovett, Bill Paxton. Lovett and his team are aboard the ship Keldysh in the North Atlantic Ocean, searching for a famous and valuable diamond, the heart of the ocean, believed to have sunk with the Titanic. They send submersibles deep underwater to the wreck of the Titanic. The shots of the ruined ship create an eerie, emotional mood, setting the tone for the tragedy that is about to unfold. After some time searching, they find a safe, hoping to uncover the diamond, but instead, they discover a sketch of a young woman wearing the necklace. The woman in the picture appears to be posing nude, and the sketch is dated April 14, 1912, the day the Titanic sank. They broadcast the image on the news, hoping to find someone who knows about the sketch or the necklace. Rose Dawson Calvert's story begins. In response to the news report, an elderly woman named Rose Dawson Calvert, Gloria Stewart, contacts the team and claims to be the woman in the sketch. Rose is flown to the Keldysh by helicopter, accompanied by her granddaughter, Lizzie Susie Amos. The team is skeptical, as Rose claims to be 101 years old, but she begins to tell her story of the Titanic, taking the audience back to 1912. The narrative transition from present day to 1912 is smooth, with a fade into the lavish departure of the Titanic in Southampton. As Rose begins to recall her memories, the grand scale of the ship and its significance is made clear. The Titanic departs. The scene shifts to 1912, with a young Rose DeWitt Bukater, Kate Winslet, boarding the Titanic in Southampton, England, alongside her fiancé, Cal Hockley, Billy Zane, and her controlling mother, Ruth DeWitt Bukater, Frances Fisher. Rose's family is extremely wealthy, and she is trapped in an arranged engagement to Cal, a rich but arrogant man. Rose's life, despite the wealth, is empty, and she feels suffocated by societal expectations. Simultaneously, a drifter and artist, Jack Dawson, Leonardo DiCaprio, wins a third-class ticket to the Titanic in a poker game. Jack and his friend Fabrizio, Danny Nucci, rush to board the ship before it sets sail. Jack's carefree, adventurous spirit contrasts sharply with Rose's sheltered and rigid existence. The Titanic is presented as a marvel of engineering, with lavish accommodations for first-class passengers and starkly different conditions for those in third class. As the ship sets sail, the energy is one of excitement and grandeur, but the audience is already aware of the tragedy that awaits. Rose's inner turmoil. In a beautifully shot scene, Rose stands at the stern of the ship, contemplating her life and future. Despite being surrounded by luxury, she feels immense pressure from her engagement to Cal and her mother's expectations. Her mother reminds her that their wealth is dependent on Rose marrying Cal, as their family has financial problems. The scene emphasizes the social class dynamics at play, where women like Rose are viewed as commodities for marriage. The Titanic represents the social stratification of early 20th century society, with clear divisions between the rich and poor. Jack saves Rose. That evening, Rose becomes overwhelmed by her feelings of entrapment and despair. She runs to the back of the ship, intending to throw herself into the freezing ocean below. Jack, who happens to be nearby, notices her and intervenes. He persuades her not to jump, talking her down by describing the cold water and how terrible drowning would be. Jack's kindness and genuine concern for Rose spark a connection between them. Rose, however, is embarrassed by the situation and tries to maintain her composure when Cal and his valet, Spicer Lovejoy, David Warner, arrive. Jack explains that Rose almost fell, and Cal rewards him with money for saving her. Rose, however, begins to feel a bond with Jack, recognizing that he sees her as a person, not just a possession. Rose and Jack's growing friendship. Over the next few days, Jack and Rose grow closer. Jack shows Rose his sketchbook, filled with drawings of people he met in his travels. Rose is impressed by Jack's artistic talent and his free-spirited approach to life. Jack's descriptions of his adventures and his ability to live without being confined by class and wealth captivate Rose, who envies his freedom. Despite their growing friendship, Rose is constantly reminded by her mother and Cal that she is expected to maintain her place in society. Cal becomes increasingly suspicious of Rose's interactions with Jack, and Ruth reminds Rose that their financial survival depends on her marrying into Cal's wealth. The first-class dinner and the party below deck. Following the suicide attempt, Jack and Rose's friendship begins to blossom. Jack is invited to dinner in first class as a thank you from Cal and Rose's family, which gives him a chance to mingle with the elite. Jack, despite being from third class, charms the guests with his humor and stories of his travels. Cal, however, is visibly annoyed, as he sees Jack as a threat to his control over Rose. Later that night, Jack invites Rose to a party in third class. This scene contrasts the stiff, formal nature of first class with the lively, joyous atmosphere below deck. Rose dances with Jack and the other passengers, experiencing a level of freedom and fun that she has never known. The music, dancing, and energy of the scene reflect the vibrant spirit of the third-class passengers, despite their lower status. Jack directly tells Rose that he loves her. In the scene where Rose comes from church and Jack expresses his love for her, it is a pivotal moment in the narrative that highlights the emotional depth of their relationship. This scene typically unfolds with Rose returning from a church service, symbolizing her connection to tradition and societal expectations. Jack, who represents a more free-spirited and passionate approach to life, seizes the moment to confess his feelings. As Rose approaches, Jack's demeanor shifts from casual to earnest. Jack holds Rose and takes a step to a closed room, looking deeply into her eyes, conveying the intensity of his emotions, telling Rose she is the most amazing woman he ever knows. Rose rejected by telling Jack she marry Cal. This moment encapsulates themes of love versus duty, freedom versus societal expectations, and the transformative power of love. Jack's confession serves as a catalyst for Rose's character development, prompting her to reconsider her choices and the life laid out for her. I'm flying. The bow scene. In one of the most iconic scenes in cinematic history, Rose sneaks away from a formal first-class dinner to meet Jack at the bow of the ship. Jack stands on the railing, his arms outstretched, and invites Rose to join him. As the ship cuts through the ocean, Rose steps up onto the railing, spreading her arms as Jack holds her waist. Together, they experience the feeling of flying. This scene symbolizes Rose's liberation from her societal constraints. It is the first moment where Rose feels truly free, with Jack offering her the chance to experience life in a new way. The cinematography is stunning, capturing the magic and romance of the moment. Cal's jealousy and control. Cal becomes increasingly jealous of Jack and Rose's growing connection. He orders his valet, Lovejoy, to spy on them and tries to assert his dominance over Rose, reminding her of the consequences of defying him. This scene highlights the toxic nature of Rose and Cal's relationship. Rose is trapped in an emotionally abusive engagement, where Cal uses his wealth and power to control her. His manipulation contrasts with Jack's genuine care and respect for Rose as an individual. The drawing scene. In a private moment, Rose asks Jack to draw her wearing nothing but the heart of the ocean necklace. This scene is a pivotal moment in their relationship, as Rose fully trusts Jack and allows herself to be vulnerable. The act of posing for the drawing represents Rose taking control of her own body and desires, breaking free from the societal constraints placed on her. The intimacy of the scene is underscored by the fact that Jack sees Rose not as an object, but as a person with depth and complexity. The sketch itself becomes a symbol of their love and connection. The chase and discovery of the affair. Cal soon discovers the drawing and becomes furious. He confronts Rose, realizing that she has been sneaking around with Jack. Cal's rage and jealousy reach a boiling point, and he sets out to destroy Jack, falsely accusing him of stealing the heart of the ocean necklace. Meanwhile, Rose and Jack's romance intensifies. They find themselves in a secluded part of the ship, where they make love in a car stored in the cargo hold. This scene marks the culmination of their romantic connection, with the ship serving as a metaphor for the fleeting nature of life and love. The iceberg and collision. The ship's officers are alerted to an iceberg directly in Titanic's path, but it's too late to avoid the collision. The ship strikes the iceberg, and water begins flooding the lower compartments. The atmosphere shifts dramatically, as the audience realizes the disaster is imminent. The collision scene is intense and masterfully executed, with the sound of grinding metal and the panic of the crew trying to assess the damage. The Titanic was designed to be unsinkable, but the reality of the situation quickly becomes clear. The ship is doomed. Chaos as the Titanic sinks. Panic spreads as the passengers are told to put on life vests and prepare for evacuation. The class divisions are starkly revealed, as first-class passengers are given priority access to the lifeboats, while third-class passengers are locked below deck, struggling to reach safety. Rose refuses to leave Jack behind, despite Cal's insistence that she board a lifeboat. She makes the decision to stay with Jack, reaffirming her love for him. The chaos of the sinking ship is palpable, with people running in all directions, trying to escape the rising water. Jack and Rose's fight for survival. As the ship begins to sink, Jack and Rose fight against overwhelming odds to stay together. Jack is arrested and handcuffed below deck after being framed by Cal, while Rose escapes and returns to rescue him. Together, they face the rising waters as the lower decks flood. The ship splits in two. As the ship continues to sink, the situation becomes increasingly dire. The bow of the ship is submerged, and the stern rises into the air. In a horrifying sequence, the Titanic splits in half, sending passengers plunging into the freezing ocean below. Jack and Rose manage to cling to a piece of debris in the water, but Jack knows that there isn't enough room for both of them on the floating door. He sacrifices himself to save Rose, ensuring that she survives. The rescue and final moments. After the Titanic sinks, the survivors float in the icy water, waiting for rescue. Rose is eventually saved by a lifeboat, but Jack succumbs to the cold, sinking into the ocean. Rose is devastated, but she vows to live her life to the fullest in Jack's memory. Back in the present day, Rose finishes telling her story to Brock Lovett and the crew. The elderly Rose reveals that she has kept the Heart of the Ocean necklace all these years, but instead of giving it to the treasure hunters, she drops it into the ocean, letting it sink to the Titanic's resting place. Thanks for watching my recap of Titanic. I hope you enjoyed reliving this iconic film as much as I did. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe for more movie recaps. Let me know in the comments which movie you'd like me to cover next. Until then, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.